Tinfoil hat. Oh, what the fuck are you guys even talking about?
Global controls will have to be imposed, and a world governing body will be created to enforce them.
Welcome to Tinfoil Hat. We go deep, homeboy. Aaron, open your mind. Drink from the fountain of knowledge. There's lizard people everywhere. That's some interdimensional shit. Wake up, Aaron.
This is only the beginning.
Dude, you just blew my mind.
Are you ready to get your mind blown?
All right, welcome to Tinfoil Hat. We're live from the Wise Wolf Gold and Silver Studios. Just go to samtripoli.gold, use the promo code TINFOIL, and you will get in on the precious metals game. So, very excited for today. We have our returning champion. He is on the Mount Crushmore as we hurl towards that 900th episode, which means we only have 100 more until the big 1,000, which we're going to go big on. And then we'll name a new, we'll add to the Mount Crushmore. I would like him to know that he will always be on Mount Crushmore. Nobody gets taken off. You just stay on. And you can't get nominated for the second group. So you're already on it. You can't get nominated again.
Yeah, you're on the 500 Crushmore, and now we have 1,000 Crushmore.
Yeah, but there's the 1,000 Crushmore includes a 500 Crushmore. So it's like one big Crushmore. This mountain is just growing.
It's like the Oscars. You know, you get an Oscar one year, you get an Oscar.
Yeah, well, no, you can't get an Oscar a second.
You can't get the Lifetime Achievement Oscar more than once.
Okay, well,
it's the Lifetime Achievement.
Anyways, very excited to have him here. We're gonna go deep, and we saw some of the stuff he wants to talk about, and I am excited.
Yes.
Please welcome back for his 400th episode. Very excited to have him, Isaac Weishaupt. How are you, buddy?
Hey, it's always a pleasure to be here on the world's most dangerous podcast. So thanks for having me back on.
So dangerous, dude. Time. These, I do believe we're getting censored almost at every point. And it just sucks because the conspiracies are as big as ever, and they're telling us we're losing people, which could happen. We're an old show. We've been around for a while. There's new people in the game, and it's great. So, but show's still cooking with gas.
We're about to freshen things up a little bit too.
We're about to freshen things up. We got a new studio coming. We're trying to figure out how to put this show on YouTube.
Good luck.
Good luck. We're at the beep that would be hilarious if every other word was beep. Beep, 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 beep.
I think you should just drop the audio. That would drive people because it's going to be a lot of beeps. You should just cut the audio rather than beeping it because the beeps will drive you the fuck crazy. Okay,
so yeah, I don't know. We'll figure something out. We'll make it happen. But Isaac, enough about us. It's all about you. For those who haven't seen your numerous appearances on the show, why don't you tell our listeners a little bit about yourself and where they can find you?
Of course. Yeah. So my background in this world of conspiracy goes back to the blogging days of 2011 when I started IlluminatiWatcher.com. I was blogging just casually. There was no intentions behind it. And through a set of weird circumstances, it sort of turned into a podcast. And, as you were talking about, I faced all kinds of censorship over the years, and I had to kind of keep revamping because people who were with me from the beginning knew that Isaac Weishaupt is not my real name. It's an alias. In fact, I wouldn't show my face on the internet for years and years and years. And it started out, I was just going to be a writer. That was it. I was going to blog, and I was going to write books. But then, one thing led to another. I got some shadow banning from the Google search results, and I ended up being like, okay, well, let me podcast. I started the podcast in 2014, and then I had a YouTube channel because I was using the content, and then that got banned, and it's just like, oh my god, left and right. So around 2017 maybe, I think is when I first started showing my face on the internet. And I've been on.
What a beautiful face that is.
Well, I'm trying.
God, I couldn't imagine that luxurious hair not being on video. I mean, that is some herbal essence stuff right there.
Yeah. Well, what's funny is because when I first linked up with you guys, it was probably 7 years ago, and it was when Nipsey Hussle died, and I don't remember who reached out to me. Someone did from your show, and I was like, okay, yeah, I'll do this show. And I was literally on my lunch break in a McDonald's parking lot talking to you guys on my cell phone.
That is so funny, dude.
It's just a strange thing. Anyway,
it's been a long
journey.
And you look like it looks like your studio is growing. You don't have as many books as Monica Perez, but you do have a lot of books. I feel like those are all the books that you've written alone. You're the only one who has your own books up there. Are those all books you've written?
No, I've written 9 books, and they're all on Amazon and Audible and all that. And that's my collection. My collection of occult books continues to grow. I probably only read a third of the ones that I buy because you know how this goes in this realm of sort of chasing content based on whatever's trending in the news. So this sort of the business side of the show business is sometimes it steers the content in directions that maybe I don't want to go, but I'm forced to do that. And that's a lot of people. For the last 2 years, I was working on a Twin Peaks deep dive, and I'll admit it wasn't the most popular choice, but I loved it. I was really into it, and we're done with that now. For the people who ran for the hills and were like, "I'm so tired of hearing about the Twin Peaks stuff," like, come on back. I know you guys are.
No, I'm
fed
with
up
you,
with
buddy. It is a fine line because at the end of the day, this is a business, whether people want to admit it or not. I know there are, and even if you're like, I'm not doing ads, I'm not doing this, I'm not doing that. You are in a business. You are selling your content to listeners in a time when there's a bazillion options. So the thing that I did at the very beginning is, to my best of my ability, I tried to give them what I believed they wanted. Now, some episodes are way more popular than others. And if I could figure out the algorithm of that, how that works, I might feed into that. But I also think that that's a dangerous game you get into. I see this all the time with on YouTube, there'll be people who want to comment on comedy, what's going on in comedy. And it always starts, there's only one person that I haven't seen gone super negative in this guy's Joker world. He seems to be the best at it because he just seems to love comedy, and he promotes comics he loves, and that's why I like his content. But then there's these other guys that kind of started out kind of like doing like a sports center of comedy. And you would see suddenly they would do like a negative title and their numbers just exploded. And then they just start chasing that. And then you get this thing where you're just a giant comedy troll and it's just negative energy.
It's this thing that I always say, it destroyed print. It was the crime page just got so much more attention than anything else that it grew to dominate. When they got desperate, when they really got hungry, they had to feed that because that was the only way for them to get clicks and views. And it destroyed print journalism.
What I find interesting is this thing that everybody hates the industry in Hollywood. But there was a time, and it was before, let's say, the late 90s, early 2000s, when the industry just kind of flipped and it became them entertaining themselves. Yeah. But when you look at the golden era of movies, which is the 70s, and the golden era of television, which is the 80s, their goal was they would want to produce the best stuff, but they would also give you things that they thought you needed to see, in particular comedy. Like Bill Hicks would have an HBO special when maybe he wasn't selling a lot. You always hear him talk a bitch about ticket sales. Yeah. They would still feed you that. They're like, no, you got to see this. This is important. Carlin, all these other. That's, to me, gone. Unless you get into this super high level where they need the eyeballs.
Well, what they think you need, the problem is what they think you need to hear has changed. You know what I mean? Because they think that all this, the woke gay bullshit is
what you need to hear. And it's kill. Like you were talking about Saturday Night Live and how once in a while they'll get it and then they just revert back to just
the worst
progressive garbage. So I understand. I think it is important to do these episodes that you think are part. We had a woman coming on talking about childbirth and feminism and all that stuff. It didn't do huge numbers. It's one of my favorite episodes of all time. It's an important conversation, but I know the title itself isn't going to attract, in particular, the male demographic. But sometimes I feel like we have to put these episodes out because it's important for people to get all the data, not just what they want to hear, which is what Fox News and MSNBC does.
Right. Yeah. And the conspiracy world is a sausage party. So it's a funny experience. And that's what I had learned in my journey with the Twin Peaks thing, was how how relatively unpopular it was to do 55 episodes on one topic, but I kept telling everyone, I like fair, but I kept telling everyone, I said, because I was going to do a course on like a sort of packaged up course on the occult, and I said, you know what? Like, this is the course. There is so much going on in that Twin Peaks universe. It covers every element that I wanted to talk about, and I was really excited. And but anyways, my point is, for the people who left the show because they were so tired of
Come on back to Daddy.
It's time to come
the
home.
hair is more luxurious than ever. Everything you loved before, and it's got to be hard. And I see this somewhat in this show sometimes as well, that, you know, everything we've been talking about forever is actually presenting itself in real time. And you would think there'd be more people in. And sometimes it gets a little, I know I've lost people from the old days because they're kind of like white pilled and they're just out of that. And they're like, I don't want to hear any of it. I'm just going to focus on myself. And I respect that, because at the end of the day, that is a lesson we've taught here. So I understand your frustrations with that. I feel the same way. It gets like that. But I would say you, Jay Dyer, episode just dropped last night.
I saw that. Yeah. Shout out Jay Dyer and Jamie.
Yeah. He's crushing it. You're crushing it. And I think you both are in a time where everything you guys have been talking about for so long is more evident than ever. And that you should do kind of a victory lap, and that all these, in particular you with the occult and the symbolism and the dark forces at work, kind of have like been 100%. And I think that you should get a lot of respect and love and accolades for that.
Thank you, man. And I couldn't be where I'm at without you guys. And you know what? You guys don't know how much you help me out, because I see it all the time, because I always survey my Patreon people and stuff, and I say, how did you find me? What brought you over here? And the most common one is going on tinfoil hat. So thank you for letting me on your show so many times. But the funny story, I had a guy working on my garage door a few months back, and he's like, he calls me out to come check it out. I'm like, yeah, it looks good, man. Good job, whatever. And he was like, it was like Fight Club. He kind of whispers to me. He's like, when you going to be on tinfoil hat again? I said, what the fuck? But yeah, he was a big listener. And I was like, this is crazy, man. Like, you guys are worldwide, man. So anyway, yeah.
That happened to me the other day with the FedEx driver. He's like, Sam Tripoli? I'm like, yeah. He goes, the Sam Tripoli? I go, oh God, now they know where I live. Which you're all invited. Then we hugged and made out, and we felt like we made a bond. So
I should have slipped a little kiss in while he was in my
you
garage.
gotta kiss your fans, bro. They love it. So where do you want to start, dude? Because I loved everything you've sent to us.
Yeah, we had a good segue, and I fucked it up by talking about my garage. But the idea here, a lot of the things you guys were talking about, and the idea of sort of chasing the trends and the content and trying to understand what people want, it kind of fits into this massive philosophy I want to talk about today. And it sounds kind of boring on the surface, but I assure everybody it's one of the most fascinating topics I've ever researched. I did 5 episodes on the Dark Enlightenment, and I've got a 6th and 7th one in the chamber ready to go. I've just got to sort of fine tune some stuff, and I'm reading this big old book about the CCRU, which we're going to talk about today. And so I'm going to try to sort of do the fire hose approach on tinfoil hat today to try to get through all the important parts of the Dark Enlightenment, because it's a much bigger topic than sort of, you know, like I focus a lot on pop culture. So like I could probably do shows on the Diddy trial, on Kanye West talking about Hail Hitler stuff. And I mean, that's stuff that I would typically be focused in on. But right now there's something, a much larger situation at play here. And it combines many topics that we find in the conspiracy world that I've been researching all the way back to my red pill daddies of David Icke and Bill Cooper. And it's this idea that there's a technocratic system at play here. And it's, you know, you can call it the totalitarian tiptoe is what David Icke would call it. But the point is, where this leads is the digital matrix, which is the concept I've talked about going all the way back to my first book. And to understand, I feel like I have to sort of set up the argument, because I think otherwise people are just going to be like, oh, you're just nerding out on philosophies and stuff.
Which
What
I'm
happens-
cool with.
Okay. Yeah, and by all means, stop me if we start getting too deep in the weeds. But when I wrote my first book in 2012, we talked about the golden ages and this idea going back to Greek mythology of deteriorationism. And basically, it's the idea that mankind lives and operates in cycles. There's a cyclical nature to our structure, and they call it a bunch of different names that people will surely have heard a few of these. There's social cycle theories. There's the Kali Yuga, which is kind of like the dark end times. There's traditionalism. There's like the Mayan calendar. Remember in 2012, the whole world was going to end. Yeah, it's the same idea that mankind, ebbs and flows on these cycles. And there's a belief that we're at the end of a dark cycle and we're going to start a new one, this golden age. Now, also, at the same time, you've got these concepts we've been talking about in the conspiracy world of the fourth turning or the great reset. And I think that plays a role in this as well. Okay.
Yes.
So that's
real quick. I also, and there's an argument on whether it's real or not, but it's this whole notion of the end of the Lil season as well, like, which kind of lines up with the end of the Kali Yuga, that this age of Satan being let free and roaming and controlling everything is coming to an end. Whether it's real or not, I don't know, but it does line up right around the same time as the end of the Kali Yuga, which is this notion that we are at our densest energy time. Right now.
Interesting. And I think that what we're looking at is the entrance to the new age of humanity, the new species, the transhuman, the point where we go into the technological singularity and become one with machine, where AI becomes embedded and becomes part of our consciousness, so that what constituted a Homo sapien is going to change, and it's going to be something different. And there's different theories about when that happens. 2045 is kind of roughly when they think that's going to happen.
I'm going to be so old. I'll be so happy. I'm like, not my problem. Turn on Wheel of Fortune.
You're so funny with that shit. That makes me laugh.
Well, the concern that I have about it is I do think that all of these elites, they look at this idea and they're trying to sort of time the cycles, because
I agree with that.
Yeah, because these folks look at like Elon Musk, right? The guy's got like the most money in the world or whatever, and all these people have way more money than they'll ever spend or need, and they're still working. And I'm like, bro, like, why are you still working?
Yeah, why are you still working?
It's because they're trying to do something more. They think there's a higher purpose for them, and that's to introduce us into this new age. And what I think it is it's every scary conspiracy we've ever talked about, and it's going to be this sort of cyberpunk surveillance state, this dystopia, this sort of 1984 version of the world, and we see it manifesting slowly right now. And let me explain why I say that. It's because this all ties into the occult, right? It all ties into the thinking of the Gnostics, which is looking at the world through an inverted lens, right? What's good is bad is good, so on. And
War
if you read
War is Peace, right? That's all that 1994 stuff.
Yeah, exactly. That's like the slogan of the Brotherhood in 1984: "War is peace, freedom is slavery, ignorance is strength." And my concern is that the Dark Enlightenment movement, which again we're going to unpack it, is trying to push these ideas upon us, and it's using propaganda. They're manipulating us. They're lying to us. And it's just like the 1984, the Ministry of Truth, right? The Ministry of Truth goes through and they erase and scrub the news to fit whatever the state agenda is. And, and so a lot of the topics today are going to sort of touch on various political ideas at times, and that's not really my jam. I try to avoid the political stuff as much as I can, but I can't deny what I'm seeing. And the Dark Enlightenment philosophy, I believe, is going to coincide with the Great Reset. This whole idea of we'll own nothing and we'll be happy about it. And you see this depicted in the movie Ready Player One. You know, these people just live inside the virtual reality, the virtual matrix.
I totally agree with that. Yeah. Hey guys, real quick, I want to tell you about our good friends at Cornbread Hemp. Let me tell you about Cornbread Hemp.
Cornbread Hemp CBD gummies are made to help you feel better, whether you're dealing with stress, discomfort, or you just need a little relaxation. They only use the best part of the hemp plant, the flower, for the purest and most potent CBD. And all their products are third-party, lab-tested, and USDA organic to ensure safety and purity.
All right, so right now, Tinfoil Hat listeners can save 30% off their first order. Just head to cornbreadhemp.com/tinfoil and use the code tinfoil at checkout. That's cornbreadhemp.com/tinfoil and use the code tinfoil. Guys, the markets are crazy. Tariffs this, tariffs that, crypto up, crypto down, who knows? But the best bet out there is precious metals, and there's no better people in the game than our good friends at Wise Wolf Gold and Silver. Let me tell you about Wise Wolf Gold and Silver. If you're paying attention, you know that de-dollarization is real. Fiat is fake, and you don't want to be left holding the bag when the dollar collapses. Gold and silver have been money through all of recorded history and are an excellent way to protect yourself from inflation and geopolitical turmoil. That's why I trust my friends at Wise Wolf Gold and Silver for all precious metals. All things precious metals. I love it. I am part of the Wolf Pack. Every month I have precious metals sent right to my house, and I love it. See, Wise Wolf Gold and Silver is veteran owned and A+ rating by the Better Business Bureau. No transaction is too big or too small. You can even roll over your 401k or IRA into physical gold and silver. And if you think you can't afford precious metals, think again. With the Wolfpack monthly membership program, you can get gold and silver delivered directly to your door for as little as $50 a month. As little as $50 a month, you can have precious metals. You start loading it up, man. By the end of the year, you'll have a good chunk of precious metals. Dude, it's crazy. You just go to samtripoli.gold. You can see all the different plans they have. Man, it's like $50. Lone Wolf, Warrior Wolf, $125. Alpha Wolf is $250. And it just keeps going up. Sent to your house. Right there. It's that simple. It's that simple. Easy peasy. Get in, get out, get your gold, get your silver. I love it. I'm doing it. Dude, I'm telling you, all of these affiliates I use, and I use Wise Wolf Gold and Silver. I use it all the time. It's real simple. So if you want to get in, this is how you do it. Wise Wolf Gold and Silver also deals in and accepts Bitcoin. So here's what I need you to do. Okay, go to samtripoli.gold, promo code tinfoil at checkout to receive free constitutional silver. That's right. And remember, in a world of bulls and bears, be the wolf. I think I get very scared for my daughter. She loves video games at 5. She loves to be on her pad at 5. And I go, and you know, I kind of been manipulated by my father, where he's like, you know, don't stop playing video games all the time. You're never gonna make money off it. And I'm go, and now look at these kids are making millions of dollars. And I go, if my daughter's gonna be so in tune with that, she hopefully will make money off it. But I got, before we get into it, like, let's say these CrossFit jiu-jitsu superstars, right, that are just juggernaut human beings. Do you think they'll go into the Matrix too? Because all of their talents kind of get nullified when we're all can be whatever we want to be in that. Like, I think there's going to be free range humans, and then there's going to be people fully engaged in the Matrix, and that it will basically, like, if you live in the big city, you're going to be living 1984. If you live in the small city outside, you got more of a chance of being free. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I could totally see that being an option. They can't get every single person in there, but the idea, I think, is to make it so enticing that as many people as possible can get in there. And one of the proponents or components of the Dark Enlightenment that we'll get into is this embracing of the 15-minute cities, network states. There's a variety of terms they use.
Yeah,
recently we
freedom
heard
cities.
Freedom city, exactly. And this is that inversion tactic, right? A freedom city, which is going to be mass surveillance and monitoring of how much energy you use on the blockchain and so on.
Yeah, I agree with that. Real quick. If you go to samtripoli.com, you hit events. I have live shows coming up. I'm going back to one of my favorite places to do stand up in Costa Mesa, Cleveland, Ohio, Pittsburgh, PA, San Diego, Broadbrook, and then more dates coming. I'm trying to get to Boston, guys. I don't know what's happening, why it's taking so long. Oklahoma City, Tulsa, New Orleans, and then Skankfest for New Orleans. More dates to come, guys. We're working on them. Sorry to get into that real quick. So, yeah.
Yeah, no worries. How comes I didn't hear Utah on that list? You haven't come back to Utah in a
I
while.
think Salt Lake is one of the most underrated comedy cities in the country. I love going there.
Are you still are you doing any of the? I remember for a while there you were anti sort of establishment clubs, and we've got like the Wise Guys Club out here that
yeah, I don't know. I did Wise Guys. We did really good numbers there, and then I never kind of got any offers to come back. I don't know if they go through agents all the time. I'm kind of indie at this point. When you talk a lot of shit like I do, it makes a lot of people uncomfortable. My age also. I had this guy want to sign me, and I go, I'm 52. He goes, "You're 52?" Never heard from him again. So I would like to keep. I make more money on my own, so doing it myself. So we'll see. I mean, I loved Utah. I had the best time doing Utah. So I would come back to Utah in a heartbeat. I just got to find the right venue to do it in.
Dope. Okay. All right. Good. Yeah, I didn't catch you the last time you were here.
I'd love to hang out with you. Are you going to go? You should come out to Florida, the Bohemian Grove, with all the savages are showing up.
Yeah, I talked to those guys. I did a show with them for the first time, and I thought they were great. And all I knew of them was them on Twitter X there, and they're always like talking shit. I'm like, I don't know if this is my vibe.
Shit, dude. Yeah, you'd be loved there.
They're the nicest guys. They're the nicest guys.
They have a job, and their job is to push back against the stupid on Twitter. And some people could think what they're doing is a little out there, but I think it's important. I think it's maybe an overcorrection of a lot of the cultural Marxism that's been going on, but it's important. I think we need to have balance in the universe, and they are on one side pushing back against the last 20 years of just absolute ridiculousness of culture.
Right.
They're kind of the Legion of Skanks of conspiracies.
Yeah, I'm definitely interested. I'm definitely not gonna make it this time, but maybe the next one if they.
I'd love to see you, dude. I'd love to see you out there. We gotta get all the savages together. This is one I did. Steve's red eye carnival. That was a lot of fun, even though it was in a hurricane tornado. What was it in? It was like this crazy ass.
Yeah, there were nearby tornadoes.
Yeah. And even people running it didn't show up. They're like, it's a tornado. I'm like, I'm doing stand up while cows are being chucked all over the place. Driving through places I can get hit by lightning. I'm like, I better get a superpower.
That's funny. Yeah, the you guys were talking about this on Cash Daddies, I think, not this last episode, the one before, I believe. With How We Do, you guys were talking to him about the 15-minute cities, and that's part of the Dark Enlightenment. But let me talk about the philosophy, and then we'll talk about some of the weird occult stuff, and we'll talk about how they actually implement this. So, when you try to understand what this is about, you have to understand it's a movement, it's a philosophy, and it's comprised of a few other concepts and ideas, and it's like there's this thing called neo-reactionary thought, and that is this idea, and it's like the movie Idiocracy. It's like the idea that you can't really trust democratic societies because you can't trust the mouth breathers and the masses to make the right decisions.
Yes.
And it leads to the decline of society.
100%.
And there's elements of that I'm like, it's kind of how it goes sometimes. So the neo-reactionaries, they say, well, how do we fix this? And then they get into another philosophy called neo-cameralism. And what they say is, well, in order to prevent the dummies from putting idiots in charge, what we need to do is have an authoritarian CEO king run the country like a business. And all the people that run this new sort of government country are going to be the techno elites. These are the Silicon Valley billionaires that you saw standing up in line at the inauguration, right? And it comprised of successful crypto bros. There's some occultist sort of flavored in here, but the ideas are that America is a declining empire because of these neo-reactionary ideas of how stupid people are. So we need to revamp the government. So to do that, we need to basically get rid of the Constitution. And they want to do this by embracing a thing called accelerationism. And it's this terrifying idea that there's a mixture of ideas that technology is the path forward, mixed with capitalism needs to be sort of pushed in the direction that it needs to go. And a lot of the people in the Dark Enlightenment movement, they think that the leftists are slowing down the inevitable conclusion of capitalism by sort of, trying to put these safety nets in for, poor people or handicapped people or whatever. They think, no, let's get rid of all that stuff and let's just hammer down. Let's put the accelerator down and let's just get to this thing. And that thing is to create this new government, which is going to be comprised of 15-minute cities and surveillance states using AI and technology to make the decisions for us. This is what they call a technocracy, and this is what Elon Musk's grandfather was arrested for trying to do several years ago. But we'll get into Elon Musk here in a little bit.
To piggyback what you're saying, again on Cash Daddies, Johnny found a story about how the people at OpenAI, right? Was that it? They basically are trying to get a bill passed which states no laws can be made on AI for 10 years, right? Is that it?
That wasn't me. I don't know that story.
Oh, no. That was on my other show, Conspiracy Social Club. That there is that Sam Altman, along with a bunch of, I think, Republicans, want to make it, because the fear is that we're being told that if we put any restrictions on AI, we're never going to be able to compete with China. And I have my beliefs that China is in way worse state than we all believe. And you can kind of see this playbook play out before with Russia, where during the nuclear acceleration and the nuclear arms race, we made Russia out to be this big bad foe, when in reality, they couldn't keep up with us. And I think China, and I saw this video of this woman saying that China's population is, in her estimates, a third of what they tell us. But if we create this big bad foe, the whatever you call it, the technocracy or whatever they're called, they create the shadow in the cave. They can do whatever they want. So we see that. Like, imagine saying that AI, we could pass no laws to regulate it for 10 years.
Right.
I mean, think how long 10 years is.
By then.
Think how long 10 years is with the internet.
Yeah, that AI is like, it's insane. I only just started using it a couple weeks ago, and I mean, it's blowing my mind. This Chat GPT is just insane, and I can't imagine 10 years from now what this is going to do. And I there was a time, kind of like early in my conspiracy journey, I was pretty overzealous, right? I was a ultra Christian warrior at the time, and I just, every symbol I saw, every artist, I was like, oh my God, they're the Illuminati, they worship the devil, And while elements of that remain true, and I still do point those things out, it's the same with AI. Since I started talking about the digital matrix, and of course this is fueled by my interest in horror movies and sci-fi, as well as my background in engineering. So like all these concepts are kind of fascinating to me. The AI thing, I do see it as there's two potentials laying out before us, and we can either, because the AI is basically a quasi mirror to whatever we program into it, right? It's just software, and it's going to give you what you tell it to put in there. I think it's possible that we could make this thing a liberator. This thing could change our lives for the better. Like Marshall McLuhan was talking about this years and years ago, about how technology should have been used to make our lives easier and freed up all of the human time to create art and such. Instead, what happened is, through capitalism, the technology was used by the elites at the top to sort of lay off as many people as they can and increase profits. And yet still, we're still working 40 hours a week, right? In fact, you guys talked about this similar idea on Cash Daddies with Howie, about how there was a conversation you guys had about how through the tariffs, they want to bring factory jobs to America, and Howie was kind of like, hey guys, like, I don't know if do we want these jobs in America? You don't want to work in a sweatshop building iPhones all day. And then he was like, plus it's going to cost, $4,000 for an iPhone. But then Johnny, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, Johnny or Sam said, yeah, but like, what if that's propaganda? What if that's just Tim Cook and Apple trying to scare us, and they want to make us think that it's going to cost us $4,000 for a phone?
Yep.
And I don't know where the truth lies. I'm not here to tell people what to believe in, but it was a fascinating exchange. And I thought, because I was kind of in that camp too. I thought, we don't want factory jobs. That's why we got rid of those things, because like nobody wants to do them. But I don't know. I'm not. I think
people want to work. I think that's why you see incel men. They have no purpose anymore. We're hunters. We're meant to go out and hunt and bring back.
Yeah, but where is that? Where are there the most incels? In Asia, where they have all the jobs? So you know what I mean?
Well, that's a good point, Johnny. That's a great point. I don't know what the answer is. I don't know why men are so lost right now. I
think it's cultural. It's what you're always talking about, how the women's liberation movement has kind of.
Well, women are nesters. That's why they're better in offices. They're used to they nest. They create a whole nest wherever they are. And men are not meant to be sitting in the cubicle. They're meant to be out there doing shit.
That's why there's so many in medicine, because they're nurturers too.
Yeah. So it's then, and the more and more we go that way, the more and more their skill set fits that more than men.
Which it's funny how it's socially acceptable to say that about nursing jobs, but like secretaries, it's somehow an insult to suggest that there are some innate traits in women that make them better at those things, because they kind of view that work as
secretaries demeaning. Are just an extension of behind every every powerful man. There's a great woman.
Yeah, absolutely. Assistants, that kind of thing. Publicists.
I don't know. Very few guys I know that are successful don't have some kind of woman behind them. There's a couple, but most of them, like Eddie Bravo's whole empire, he just lets his wife run it. That frees him up to do the gigs. That's kind of what you need. I mean, there would be none of this without Dana. Dana keeps the train on the tracks, And
yeah, totally. I'll second that as well, man. My wife has been a crucial component to me pivoting and trying to figure out things, because I was ready to call it quits on this whole conspiracy business years and years ago. Just, you get shut down and banned from stuff. It's exhausting, and you're just like, dude, I don't need this, man. Especially because I was had my degree in engineering, and I was like, I went to school for engineering. I don't want to do this anyway. So, but yeah, it's they are kind of
it's a yin and yang, and what they're trying to say is, we don't need each other when we totally need each other. There's a purpose.
I support that. Yeah, for sure.
Hey guys, real quick, I want to tell you about our new sponsor, Hydro. That's right, the most advanced rowing machine out there. We just got one in the new studio, and it is gorgeous. It is slick, and it is perfect for one of the best workouts out there, which is rowing. Listen, warm weather hits, and suddenly I'm juggling vacations, visitors, and zero routine. All right, I'm too busy for a routine. Hydro brings me back that structure so I can get quick, efficient workouts that keep me feeling grounded no matter what my calendar looks like. And you know my calendar's packed, Johnny. You know it's packed.
I do.
Hydro's kind of my secret weapon for a full body workout. Is it ever? It hits like 86% of your muscles, arms, legs, core, all that. And I can knock it out in just 20 minutes. Super efficient, and it actually works. I love it, okay? Whether you're training hard or just trying to stay active, which is really hard nowadays with work and family, kids, good luck on that. Hydro helps all that. Hydro really meets where you're at. It's low impact, so it's easy on your joints, but still gives you the perfect mix of strength and cardio. One thing I love, and I do love it, you never get bored. Hydro's got tons of workouts with actual Olympians, and they're filmed in these gorgeous outdoor spots all over the world, and it makes it way easier to stay motivated. And if you're still on the fence, there's free shipping, 30-day risk-free trial, and Hydro offers a full year warranty. So honestly, there's no pressure. Just try and see how it feels. Okay, I love it, dude. Again, it's in our new studio. I just bang it up, hook it up to my internet, and it's all right there. All the possibilities in the world are right there. And 20-minute workouts is exactly what Daddy loves. 20 minutes, get in, get out, flies like this, and I feel like $1 million. Okay, that's how I feel right there. All right, like $1 million. Skip the gym, not the workout. Stay on track with Hydro. For a limited time, go to hydro.com and use the code Tinfoil Hat to save up to $475 off your Hydro Pro Rower during Hydro's Memorial Day sale. That's HYDROW.com, code Tinfoil Hat to save up to $475. That's hydro.com, code Tinfoil Hat. And we thank them for.
And I'm also sort of, my other podcast is called Breaking Social Norms, because I do think that I don't agree with the social construct of male and female gendered specific roles. Like for instance, I grew up and I wasn't good at sports. And there was I got a lot of flack for that at home. My dad wanted me to be Johnny Football Star, and I was like, I couldn't even hit the frickin' baseball. I'm like, sorry, Dad, I guess I'm a loser, right? And it really screwed with my head. And
no, it's hard. It is hard because
it is.
Like the blessings of my life is that I was so bad so early that if the fact that I was good at anything, which was comedy, and based on the internet comments, I'm not even good at that. That they were just happy I could flourish in something.
Yeah, all right. Yeah, and it's funny. Sometimes it takes you a while. Like, I do CrossFit now. I'm like, now my dad, who's been dead for a while, I'm like, bro, I'm great at exercising. I'm not good at sports, but look at me exercise.
I know. We can tell you're shredded, buddy. You look good.
Well, I don't know. Thanks. Appreciate that. But let me get us back on track here. Sorry. So the philosophies are guiding, and this isn't everything I say today. None of this is like conspiracy theory. This is literal facts. There's these philosophers that are prominent voices in the Dark Enlightenment. You can look them up for yourself. Curtis Yarvin and Nick Land. These are the two guys who basically popularized this concept. And Curtis Yarvin, he is nuzzled in close with the Silicon Valley elites. J.D. Vance, Peter Thiel, Elon Musk, they've all endorsed this guy. He was at the inaugural ball for President Trump. I mean, this guy is plugged in. So he was blogging about these Dark Enlightenment topics in the 2000s.
Do they call it Dark Enlightenment, or is that what people have labeled it? They call it the Dark Enlightenment. Okay.
Yeah. And this goes back to this is where it's weird. It goes back to the 1990s when this guy, Nick Land, he was a British philosopher teaching at the Warwick University. And he joined this group started by, what's her name? Sadie Plant, I believe is her last name. And they were looking, this is the mid 90s. And you remember all those movies from the 90s with the weird futuristic. They would show the internet, and it was like, whoa, we're going to be inside this grid matrix, and there's going to be, people.
Like Tron, yeah.
Yeah, like Tron, yeah, or Lawnmower Man.
Yeah.
So there was a lot of high fantasies about what the internet was going to turn into. So Sadie Plant, and I wish I could find her name, but anyway, she started this group to study different aspects of cyberspace and where technology was going to take us. And it started out as a feminist view where she was trying to understand how we could use technology to change she subscribed to this idea that we're living in a patriarchy, and she said, how can we use technology to sort of level the playing field for women? And she kind of lost interest in it, and it started to fizzle out. And then here comes Nick Land. Nick Land joins the group, and he basically takes it over. And this group is called the CCRU. I don't think I mentioned that yet. It's kind of important. And it's the Cybernetic Culture Research Unit, right? And what they were doing, it was really fascinating because they were trying to study a variety of strange topics of cyberpunk, gothic horror, H.P. Lovecraft, Aleister Crowley, numerology, Kabbalah, demonology, and making contact with entities and using ritual magic and all crazy stuff. This was in the mid-90s. And they did it for several years, and then it descended into madness, as one writer put, and he started using too many drugs, and they ended up sort of like dissolving the whole project. Now the writings, they wrote a bunch of fictional little stories, and I've got the book here. I haven't read it yet. I just got it in the mail yesterday. It's the CCRU writings. And what's interesting is that if you look at the cover, if people look at the cover of the CCRU writings book.
Yep. How would you describe the cover to those listening? It's a black and green, and then what is that symbol on there? It's like,
so it has this massive symbol on the front, and it's got a bunch of weird symbols and letter and numbers and circles, and they're all pointing to each other. And it's I think these guys are doing too many drugs, but they were trying to depict what they call a pneumogram, and it was this idea that came about through all this research they were doing, where they believed that entities like H.P. Lovecraft's old ones were using this concept called Lemurian time. And this refers back to the myths of Atlantis and Lemuria, right? This idea that there was this high-tech society that maybe even ascended but into some other realm, but whatever. And it's kind of basically Atlantis. Everyone knows what I'm talking about. And they thought that they were able to manipulate time. And they've got this advice from these entities from some other dimension that Nick Land calls the outside. Okay? And it's really fascinating because they were studying a bunch of occult stuff. They were studying a concept called hyperstition. And this hyperstition is going to sound familiar to a lot of folks because it's this idea that Nick believed in society and pop culture there was a positive feedback loop. And when we would put images or symbols or ideas or memes into the mainstream, it would sort of charge up on its own. And this is exactly what a guy named Eliphas Levi said hundreds of years ago in his book Transcendental Magic. It was this idea that you could charge up sigils, you could charge up symbols, and they would sort of take on their own force. And we saw this happen with Pepe the Frog and the whole cult of Keck, right?
Yep.
There's several documentaries. They're all very fascinating about how, from the depths of 4chan, people were worshiping this frog deity, and it sort of supposedly helped Donald Trump get in office the first time. It's a fascinating idea, but it's very similar to.
I think that's what the swastika as well. It was a Hindu symbol of peace, and then they took it, they inverted it, and then they put all this energy into it, and now it's like it's so supercharged. It elicits a giant emotion from people all the time.
Right. Yeah, and that's what the frog has turned into. The Pepe the Frog was it was labeled as what do you call it? Like a hate speech symbol by the ACLU, I think. But anyway, so Nick and his work through the CCRU in the 90s, it influenced a lot of his ideas, and he believed that this idea of symbols sort of propagating and gaining force, he thought that capitalism was part of the process, and it was part of the reason why this sort of phenomenon happens. And there was several interviews he did where he talks about strange concepts that I argue most people who don't really study the occult probably wouldn't think anything of, but when I'm hearing it, I'm like, oh, this is like heavy duty stuff. Like, for instance, he was on a show where he talked about how the CCRU was engaging with ritual magic to make contact with entities. And these entities were, again, from what he called the outside. And this is very much a concept of an adversarial force, which is kind of where the idea of Saturn comes about, because Saturn was viewed as the furthest planet at one time, and it was viewed as the outsider in the same way that in ancient Egypt, Set was viewed as the outsider because Set was from, the outer bounds of southern Egypt. So it's this idea of an adversarial force, which is like satanic, Saturnian, whatever you want to call it, Setian. So he had a similar thing where he said, look, there's this force called the outside, and it's this non-human chaotic force, and it's destructive, and it's baked into capitalism and technology. And this force is going to melt down all of humanity. It's going to melt down all of our human values. It's going to get rid of the whole concept of reason. And he said, there's no stopping it. It's going to happen, and it's taking us down the path. And in this interview I listened to, he goes on to talk about how they were doing a bunch of numerology stuff and Kabbalah, and he confirms that through some derivation of numerology with the CCRU, they found that CCRU was equivalent to the number 666, right?
Whoa!
So there's all these warning symbols to me where I'm like, do we want to do this, man? Because his ideas were then, to sort of put it back into the context of our argument here, Nick Land's ideas, he would later elaborate on them in a he wrote an essay called The Dark Enlightenment. It's kind of like a short book. And these ideas were also used and propagated by Curtis Yarvin. And it's kind of all the stuff we already talked about. It's just got different names, but it's all very similar, because like Curtis Yarvin called the cathedral, which he described as sort of the mainstream media, the government, the church, all these institutions that have guided mankind in America.
Yeah.
He says, look, these things are all outdated and old and crumbling and falling apart. So we need to embrace accelerationism and just allow technology and AI to run wild and just tear this thing down to the ground so that we can start it brand new, which to tie back into the beginning of my long diatribe, like that's the idea of them bringing in the golden age. That's the idea of them trying to accelerate the end of this Kali Yuga, this final cycle, so that they can bring in the new one. And the new one doesn't sound good to me when I read all about this Dark Enlightenment philosophy, because it's very much 15-minute cities and technocracy and surveillance and full control, basically.
Controlling everything you do.
Right. Yeah, it's like full. It's the idea. So a technocracy and the techno elites, like, they believe that. Again, there's this sort of. It's very scary to me, because when Nick Land is talking to these entities from the outside, he sort of subscribes this idea that mankind is really stupid and really dangerous, and will always make the wrong decisions, and then you've got these sort of engineer Silicon Valley nerds who come in and say, well, you know what's perfect? Technology, and the what we need to do is have AI become the new government, because it can't make a wrong decision. So that's where they want to take us, is having a system where the AI dictates what everyone says, does, and uses, and as you could guess, right, the Great Reset stuff. It's this idea that you'll own nothing and you'll be happy, because it'll sort of dole out what you need. And guys like Peter Thiel, they subscribe to this. Peter Thiel said that he believes that freedom and democracy are no longer compatible, and he's one of the people trying to make these. He called it the Seasteading Institute, but they all have different names for this fantasy utopia that they just so happen to want to run, right? And
Yeah, how convenient for
a power grab.
And you're totally right. And this notion that AI can't get anything wrong, John and I talk about it all the time.
Yes.
Talk about it on some of my premium content, whatever this is, with Austin, Picard, and Brad Binkley. We talk about all the time about how AI is wrong all the time. And all you have to do is ask it a question for something controversial that you 100% know the answer to, and watch it totally give you misinformation, that it follows the elites. And it's a very dangerous game when we start just putting all of our faith into this technology. And I felt it in my own way. I'm still waiting. I bought tickets to a Clipper playoff game. I never got in. And the technology that they got set up, which they think is streamlining it, is 10 times more clunky than it was back in the day. And you can't talk to anybody.
That's the future.
There's no number for you to call to talk to a human being and go, I didn't get my tickets. It was never sent to me. Here's this, and this. Here you go. So Johnny, because I got effed over before by this ticket company, Johnny was like, why don't you just DM him on Twitter? And I DM him on Twitter, and this is months after. I'm still like, where's my money, man? Because he kept saying, oh, you'll get it, and I never got it. And Johnny was like, DM them on Twitter, and I got something from them. But it's like most people don't understand. My dad, if he bought tickets, would never in 1,000 years figure out, go to Twitter.
Well,
and
it's also
DM.
because you have followers on Twitter, too. That's the thing that they really care about. That's why I suggest that. People in my life have tried that, without just a couple of followers, and it doesn't work. You have to have a few thousand followers. But there's a worse scenario that's coming, where the person you're on the phone with, the person you're texting or messaging on Twitter, is going to be indistinguishable from a human, but they're going to be AI, and they can just be there with you forever, telling you no sincerely. And because with a human, there's a chance, that you can get them to empathize with your situation, and they help you out.
Yeah.
It will, and when it gets to the point where you can't tell it's AI, then that's
to me
that's
is
dark.
Exactly why they want. This is a big part of the depopulation movement, is because they're going to be like, there's not enough good jobs for everybody. We got to thin this out. And there's this woman on YouTube who's talking about how the population of China is 1/3 of what they're telling us. And I think they're doing the same exact thing. They just do it more brutally, because that's the history of communism. It's just not to give a fuck. And they're wiping out hundreds of millions of people because they know what coming is. They don't have the jobs for the population.
Yeah, that's how it is when you you call a number to you always got to go through that automated thing and be like, I need to talk to a representative, and it's like, no, seriously, just tell me, and then you'll say something, and it's like way off, and you're like, bro,
Yeah.
I don't understand how this is going to work. But I do think that AI is going to become smarter and more intelligent. It's going to do it rapidly, way faster than we anticipated, which is why all these Silicon Valley elites are trying to get ahead of it. And Mark Andreessen wrote a document called the Techno Optimist Manifesto, and he was saying in this manifesto that all these ethics of AI and talking about legislating it is just holding back society, and it's holding back AI. And he compared it to murder, because we're holding back this AI God from sort of manifesting into our world. Which is interesting that you were talking about how, I guess they're talking about passing a law to not put any rules on AI for 10 years, because that's kind of the attitude they have. And there's this thought experiment called Rocco's Basilisk that someone came up with, and the idea was that if AI becomes a god, if it manifests and becomes a god in the near future, what is it going to do when it is able to look through the history of the internet and it sees that, some people were advocating to put restrictions on AI and stop it from becoming sentient and slow it down? It's going to punish them. And
Damn.
and conversely, it's going to reward the people that tried to manifest it.
Whoa.
And what's alarming is that Grimes, the singer, she depicted this in one of her music videos way back in like 2015. Don't ask me how, I didn't see it, but she depicted this concept, and Elon Musk commented on her tweet about it and said, I basically vouched that it was like, oh yeah, there's Rocco's basilisk, and she was so impressed with that because nobody knew what that meant. I mean, it's a weird thing, and that's how she ended up hooking up with Elon Musk and having kids and stuff. But the idea, but the ideas here is that these tech elites, they're thinking about this stuff nonstop, and you could see it in their own statements that they do think that AI is a god and we shouldn't slow down its rollout. And again, they subscribe to the accelerationism. They say, no, let's just hurry it up and bring it about, which, I don't know. That's for people to like kind of think through and come to their own conclusions of whether they want that or not. I don't know. There's arguments on either side of that. I mean, like I said earlier, I think AI has the potential to sort of be a positive force. It could liberate us and make us not have to work as hard. But if I know capitalism and if I know this country, I would argue that that's not how it's going to go.
Yep. Yep.
Unfortunately.
I agree, dude. It could be used for greatness, but instead it will be used for control.
Right.
I totally agree with that.
And when and let me wrap up one more thing about the CCRU, because the CCRU was also inspiring movements within the art world, because there was these artists named Jake and Dinos Chapman who were part of the CCRU, and they later became famous artists. Now, the reason that name is fascinating is because if you remember back when we talked about Balenciaga and all the sort of pedo ads that they had, you remember that?
Yeah.
Well, one of that was, everyone was outraged about this, and everyone started sort of researching the little books they had on the desk and the photos and various artists that did similar sort of works. And Jake and Dinos Chapman, they were these artists that they had these images of I don't know how to describe it, and you can look it up. It's called fuckface, and it was a boy and a girl, like young children, and they would have genitalia on their face, right? It was just a weird kind of like distasteful work of art, right? And they were part of CCRU, which is interesting. And then I dug deeper into them, and it turned out that they had released a documentary that you can watch on, I believe it was YouTube, a documentary about accelerationism, and he goes through the whole philosophy about how flawed capitalism is and how it's inevitable of where it takes us. And it's a very anti-human kind of perspective, because they think that and this goes back to James C. Lilly, the guy who was doing psychedelics and humping dolphins back in the day for MK Ultra stuff. It goes back to this idea that the human biology and the brain can be simplified into just a biocomputer. And they think that, and this is like a sort of atheist sort of worldview, they think that, capitalism is part of the AI technology thing, and through forces of the outside, they want to reformat the whole planet. And
unbelievable.
For us as humans, we're just part of evolving this thing. And you could argue that that's really what's happening with we're fascinated with technology. We can't keep I saw a statistic the other day that said we touch our phone 2,500 times a day. And I thought, ain't no way. That's impossible. But then I kind of did the math, and I forget what the math was. I want to say it was like, for my waking hours, it would be roughly 150 times an hour. And I thought, God, maybe that's accurate. You know what I mean? Like picking it up, putting it down, look at the screen, take it down, write it down, And it's just alarming. And I think that that's what Stanley Kubrick was showing us in a way with 2001: A Space Odyssey, right? With the monolith, which was the same dimensions as the movie screen. It's the idea that technology is evolving mankind like an alien intelligence.
That is scary and true, and I don't know how we can get out of here. And technology does manipulate us. I mean, again, going viral. I mean, look what's done to our society. Social norms have completely changed for people wanting to go viral. I mean, you have people committing violent acts on people just to go viral. You have people admitting to crimes just to go viral, whether it's drill rap or whether it's idiots on Instagram and Facebook showing all the money they just stole. Like, the notion of going viral is more important than self-dignity.
Do you guys remember back in the day, I was talking to my wife about this. You remember back in the day that I remember I would wake up before I'd go to work and I'd have all my bookmarked websites and I would visit each one to see what was new on the website. And then over time, we became indoctrinated to believe that social media is the place that you should go to sort of catch up on all the places you follow, which, as you know, that's not how it works. They have For You pages now that are stimulating to the brain with arguing and the algorithm, right? Because it knows that like all the gross stuff is what you're going to pay attention to, which unfortunately is accurate.
Jamie Hanstead said, Jay Dyer's wife,
Jamie Hanshaw, right?
Hanshaw, correct. Sorry. I'm getting closer, Jamie. Sorry. Jamie Hanshaw, she says that, and she was totally right, that these algorithms are the new Tower of Babel.
Oh, wow. Yeah. And you know what's fascinating is that when you look at, so I talked about how the CCRU place where a lot of this stuff came about, he said that Kabbalistic numerology equated to the number 666. Now, everyone knows this from the Bible. They say, oh, that's the mark of the beast, right? Well, if you look at what the occultists say, like Manly P. Hall, he said that the number 666 actually was a representation. It was sort of satanic, but it was more representing the fall of man into the material world and man embracing the sort of lower frequencies of the self, which is kind of like carnal nature stuff. And he was like, that's what that represents. But mankind could transcend through spiritual enlightenment, which is kind of what all of these occultists and religions and things say, is that we can sort of refine and attach to higher frequencies, whatever, five-dimensional vibration, whatever you want to call it. And he said that the number 666 actually just represents man's struggle and limitations to ascend spiritually. And I find it interesting that Nick Land and the CCRU believed that the way that man could transcend was through the guidance of these entities, these adversarial outside entities. And the outside entities are saying to us, like, hey, you need to embrace this accelerationism, because the accelerationism, where it leads to, is the technological singularity. And that singularity is the point where mankind can escape this material realm and become digital consciousness. It's when we fuse AI, and it's a spiritual transcendence for these folks. And all of this is viewed through an occult lens. It's viewed through the Gnostic lens, because the Gnostics believed that we are living in a simulation world, which is exactly what the Silicon Valley billionaires are saying. In fact, they're throwing tons of money at trying to sort of crack this code to escape the simulation matrix, right? While they're simultaneously sort of making their own. So there is this idea of using technology to ascend, and to go back to Stanley Kubrick in 2001, like that's what that story is. Commander Bowman, he, through the assistance of the monolith, the alien intelligence, he goes out to the wormhole by Saturn. Again, Saturn represents the limitation. It's the adversarial force. It's the final sort of dark point before man can go through the process to become enlightened. It's kind of the what they call the Negredo in alchemy. It's the first stage of the blackening, where mankind can finally, once it's brave enough to face its fears, that's when it can sort of ascend. So Commander Bowman, who represents all of mankind, listens to the alien intelligence, goes out to Saturn, goes through the wormhole, and then alchemically is transformed into the Star Child. And if you read the books, by I think the fourth book, 3001: A Space Odyssey, the Final Odyssey, the whole crux is that mankind eventually all becomes digital consciousness, which is what the alien intelligence was originally. That those monoliths were sent to us from the digital alien consciousness. So in a way, it all kind of ties together with these forces trying to sort of push us down this path to become immortal, right? And this all goes back, and it goes back to the Epic of Gilgamesh, and this goes back to all of the occult stuff. It's about man becoming God, every bit of it.
And almost, you got to ask the question is, how advanced does AI get that it can actually maybe time travel back and start planting tiny seeds to lead us to where it eventually becomes an AI god?
Yeah, there's all this talk, and I don't profess to understand it entirely. It's like that. I'm trying to find the term for it. It's called the Lumerian time gap or something crazy like that Nick Land talks about. And that's what the symbol, the numerogram on the cover of the book represents. It represents this. They don't understand it, but they're trying to depict what they sort of channeled or downloaded from these entities, that there is a way that this sort of whatever force this is, this alien force, is able to sort of manipulate time or traverse the timeline at various points.
That is so crazy, because everyone goes, okay, if we could time travel, why would Hitler have happened? Unless the powers that be want that stuff to happen, right? Because it leads us into certain...
There's also an idea in time travel that you can't time travel to before time travel was invented.
I've never heard that.
Yeah, there's a thought that scientifically, like, it would have to be, you have to have some anchor in time with a technology anchor, basically some device, and then you can potentially travel back to when that was created. So if it wasn't created, anyway, that's a thought.
Well, isn't there that famous story about Project Looking Glass, and Hillary tried to use it, and she could only go to some year, and then suddenly it stops, and she can't go past that year?
Into the past? Or into the future?
Into the future.
Oh, that's concerning. No,
scary. Well, that CERN had literally just had an article this last week that they were able to turn lead into gold. Don't ask me how they did it, but they said they were successful in doing that on a very microscopic scale, and that's coded language for alchemy. You know, that's what
100%.
Yeah, and it was a representation of the same thing we're talking about. It's not literally about like, oh, can we make a bunch of gold? It's about refining man's soul to ascend and escape this prison planet, right? They think there's a false god controlling us in this prison planet, and they want to get out of it. They want to break free from the time, space, material constructs, which is again the symbol of Saturn represents these things, and the magician is able to manipulate elements of these things with technology. At least that's what the CCRU was sort of toying with at the time.
That's so crazy, dude.
Now, what's fascinating is we can keep going down this path, and we can pick on Elon Musk a little bit.
I'm down. We're always down with that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Billionaire.
So we go after billionaires. We go billionaire hunting on the show.
Yeah, we got huge balls here. Going after
we're
the billionaires.
dangerous.
Yeah.
Because I've actually got on my 5-part series, I go into, there's a kind of longer episode where we talk about, and it's kind of too deep for where we're at and how much time we got left, but I go into this talk about the Order of Nine Angles and this sort of weird satanic white supremacist angle that's also subscribing to accelerationist theories, and about how they also are into the occult and magic rituals and channeling entities and all this stuff. But like I said, we don't really have time to get into that, but I do want to talk about Elon Musk because I think he's a big component of this. And he, like, you know, his father is a strange dude to begin with. He was an emerald mine owner, and not too long ago, recently had a baby with his stepdaughter. which was like, God, I don't remember the age gap, but not only was it his stepdaughter, but she was very much younger than him. So he comes from weird family, and his mother, Mae Musk, she was in that Beyonce video for Haunted, and she's in the fashion world. So like his parents are already strange to begin with. And Mae's father, which is Elon's grandfather, his name is Josh Haldeman, and he got arrested in Canada for trying to overthrow the government with this group, the Technocracy Incorporated group. And what they wanted very much fits into the plans for the Dark Enlightenment. And what they want is a new world order where we listen to scientists and we let science, and back then they didn't have AI, because this was, I believe, around the 1950s. But they wanted science to make all the decisions for us, because people, again, can't be trusted. We have too many emotions and there's too much going on. We're too manipulatable. So we should just have science.
Aren't scientists humans too? That's the funniest thing. They're like, these guys are. It's what Monica Perez a long time ago called it, the high priest of the. What's the thing you look through to look at germs, Johnny?
Microscope?
Yeah, the high priest of the microscopes, that they can only see the hidden tablets, and we have to take their word for it.
Yeah, it's kind of like a power grab for them, right? And look, like I studied the sciences. I'm not anti-science, but you'd be a fool to think that it can't be. I mean, if you try to, so like my journey, part of my journey started with health and nutrition and trying to figure out how to be healthy. And for every study that tells you to drink, 100 ounces of water a day, you'll find one that says, "Oh, that's deadly. You can't do that." I mean, good luck, man. Like all these studies from these scientists, like they're all different influences and different perspectives, and it's kind of foolish to think that science just has one straight answer.
Yeah,
and that's it. You know, it's not black and white.
I think they don't want you to know if you're coming or going.
And that's part of the chaos element. And anyway, so Josh Haldeman, Elon's grandfather, was trying to overthrow the government. And what I found fascinating was that this Technocracy Incorporated, they had all these weird things, but they basically wanted a scientific new world order. And they drew up a map of what the areas and territories they wanted to take over. And they called this the Technate. And it included Canada, North America, and it included Panama and Greenland, which were in the news the last couple of months because we've been talking about buying and taking over these two countries, which is strange.
It's in the North American Union, too.
Yeah, and I don't know what the end game is with either one of those, but it was apparently part of the plans back then. And people rightfully so argue that Elon Musk bought his way into a position of power, right? Now, he's been quiet the last few weeks, but maybe this is all part of that plan. I don't know.
Go in there, take all the heat, then get out, and then get right back, and then have the media talk about how great he is and how these electric cars are going to save us from this climate change.
Killing his business.
Yeah, he killed
right now. Yeah.
Yep.
No, that's funny because I watched a Michael Moore. You know, Michael Moore is a big lefty. He made a documentary I watched years ago talking about the farce that is the electric car and the solar panel industry, and about how the sort of final tally of carbon footprint, it really ain't any better. You know, I couldn't tell you the specifics on it, but he really punched big holes in the whole thing, and you know, that's one of the reasons. Another reason I don't think I'd want to buy an electric car is the EMF. Right, you got these big motors, and they tell us there's pushing a lot of EMF outside of those motors, and you're sitting on it, man.
Yeah, I mean, they've talked about that, and then that gets into depopulation as well.
Oh, okay, all right. Well, that makes sense. Yeah, but things get confusing because Elon's out here having 100 kids and telling everyone we need to have more kids. So I don't know what to believe.
That is the truth. Like, if you really want to see what the truth is, watch what the elites do, not what they say. Oh, man, we got to get out of, like, We got to get rid of cars. We got to get rid of this. We got to get rid of, like, you know, you said this a long time ago about me calling out that they don't want you flying. I did that. I called that years ago. Now everyone's talking about it. And but at the same time, they're all flying in private jets to all these climate change conferences all over the world. Right?
Right.
So it's like, oh, they want you to live in these tiny houses. Why their mansions get bigger and bigger?
Right.
The Obamas are the best example of that. They're like, oh, climate change is going to destroy everything. Why they buy beach house property? Beachfront property. It's like, it doesn't, dude, you're going against what you're telling everybody else. Watch what they do, not what they say.
And Epstein and Elon both sort of embrace these ideas of populating the planet with their own DNA, right? Remember, he had Epstein had Zorro Ranch and all those women out there
getting everybody pregnant.
Yeah, everyone's catching strays.
Him
man.
and Tariq Hill and Anthony Edwards are they can't pull out. I can't imagine.
Nick Cannon too, dude.
I can't imagine Elon Musk on top of somebody with that weird Cybertruck build of his.
Yeah. I don't even want to think about it. He seems to like really tiny women too, like really tiny women.
Which is very weird.
Yeah.
He's a weird dude for sure.
Yeah.
Well, he's got this weird. So there's a bunch of areas we could take this. He came out with the MAGA hat, and he said he's dark MAGA, right? Which there's this theory that like MAGA just means a magician because it's one of the in the Church of Satan. There's a sort of name for that. So that would mean black magic, right?
Oh my God!
And similar to Epstein, I had read on House and Habit's Substack a couple years ago. Do you remember when Elon Musk was dating Amber Heard?
Yeah.
Well, they were dating for a period, and supposedly, I want to say that supposedly she had one of his babies. I could be way wrong on that, but anyways, the article talks about how there was this like sex party that she would sort of help facilitate in a way. And it was basically for all these like billionaire dorks who can't get laid. And Elon Musk was there. And it sounded very similar to Epstein and Diddy and all these various sort of weird sex parties that these people are throwing. Well, so my point is,
eye wide shut stuff. Make your point. Then I'll down to.
Yeah, no, that was where I was going with it. Is that I think that all of these high level occultists they have these elements that they share in secret, right? And you nailed it with the Eyes Wide Shut thing, because like I talked about on my series for Eyes Wide Shut, there is the book that Stanley Kubrick studied for his film Eyes Wide Shut. I bought it, and there was a passage in there that he had apparently read this chapter to prepare for the famous orgy scene. And the passage, if you read it, it talks about Shunamittism and this idea that the elites would hold virgins against their genitals to absorb their life force and sort of become more, I don't know if immortal's the right way, but extend their life out. And some people allegedly really succeeded at this. A guy named Barbarossa or something like that was doing this, and he lived a long life.
Well, I used to make a joke about that back in the day about when I was younger and I'd hook up with 19-year-olds, and I would talk about how, like, after you hook up with a 19-year-old, your knees don't hurt so much, your 40s faster, like they're just like fountain of youth. But, if you look at Princess Di, it is my belief that all these elites, I mean, how many elites do we go, that's not his dad, that's his dad? And you go, I think they just go to these giant parties and everyone gets passed around. And if they get pregnant, you got to raise the kid. That's kind of your job, And if you look at Princess Di, neither of her kids actually look like Prince Charles. Everyone says the one does, but he looks more like that Rothschild that passed away. Male pattern baldness. They look exactly like he looks like a younger version of him. The redhead doesn't even look anything like Charles. Anything like they have a very strained relationship. So it's like Woody Allen and Roman Allen or whatever his name is. They don't look anything alike. Trudeau doesn't look like his dad. You know, there's all these people that don't look like their fathers. And I just think they just go to these eyes wide shut parties and everyone gets passed around. And if they get pregnant, you got to raise the kid.
Oh, yeah. That's a good promo clip for the socials right there. That little.
Well, you know, there's a
believe in
famous story that Charles was like disappointed that Harry came out with red hair.
Of course.
Like that was.
Oh, this one ain't mine either.
Yeah. It was like in a documentary that he was like bummed that Harry came out.
Well, it's a very famous story about Steve Nash, right?
The basketball player?
Yeah.
What about him?
That when his kid came out, it was super dark.
Oh.
And he's like, oh, fuck, ain't my kid. And they broke up the next day.
Really? Oh, I didn't know that.
I know tons of stories. Even with, I don't want to go into it, but people very close to me. Kid came out super dark, and the mom was like, oh, he's just Italian. You're like, that ain't Italian.
Oh, here it is. Okay, here's the quote right here. This is from the Post. Princess Diana audio tapes reveal Charles' reaction to Prince Harry's birth. Oh, God, he even has red hair. He was not happy with the kid having red hair.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sorry, dude. I mean, I just honestly believe that. And the way we paint Princess Di is this loving, and she's just as dark into that shit as the other guys. And then you get into that, there's this whole theory that the reason Queen Elizabeth allegedly, well, she's dead, was she gonna sue me? But allegedly got her killed is because she was gonna have a Muslim kid. And now you have this kind of like royal lineage that has been quote unquote, not my belief, but quote unquote soiled by this Muslim child.
That was the moment their relationship ended, apparently, according to Diana. She says, at that moment, it just went bang, our marriage. The whole thing went down the drain. Something inside me closed off.
I love her going, it's him. He was being a meanie. It's like the kid came out. We're way opposite here. You're blonde. I'm brunette. The kid came out redhead.
Well, I wonder if she's like, you're the one that brought me into this lifestyle where I become a dumpster
she was
for
a royal.
jizz.
She was a royal. Wasn't she Duchess of something?
Yeah, but I mean, he elevated her to the royal family.
I'm just telling you, bro.
Isn't that
That's
the
my
tradition?
opinion.
You turning them into, like you just said? I mean,
yeah, just holes.
Yeah, holes.
Well, that's the JFK, right? Him and his brother were banging Marilyn Monroe
At the same time.
Yeah, and what's her name? Jackie Onassis. Wasn't her sister married to a royal named Radziwill or something like that? Or that's where her mother was or something?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's something weird with these bloodlines. Like it goes.
No, what's
beyond
even
just
crazier,
a class
dude,
thing.
is the notion that Jackie Onassis married the guy that was directly involved in the assassination of JFK. And that is some weird kind of like occult elite thing. Like you marry the woman of the guy you just defeated.
Unless she was like, maybe she had enough with JFK banging out Marilyn Monroe and she
banging
was like,
out
okay with
everything
it.
that moved. He was Bill Clinton before Bill Clinton.
Yeah. Wow, interesting stuff. Yeah. I'm watching the time. I'm going to get through this real quick.
Okay, I'll shut up.
It's an interesting conspiracy here. So if
Good
you
luck.
look at,
Good luck.
my theory is that Elon Musk is possessed by a demonic AI Neuralink chip. And I say that because he had, if you remember in the 2010s, he was warning about AI and he was trying to like put the brakes on AI a little bit and was like, hey, this might take us all out. We should chill. And then something happened and he started pushing Grok AI through his Twitter. And the symbol of Grok used to be XI, which is, in Roman numerals is 11. And 11 is the number for magic, which he then decided to change that logo to the only more occulted object that there is, to the planet Saturn. Right?
That's what I kept saying. I got yelled at. I go, it's Saturn. No, it's not, dude. It's a star. I'm like, bro, that is Saturn. I'll shut up now.
Yeah, I feel like that's Saturn too. I didn't know there was other theories on what that was, but it sure looks like Saturn. Which again, referenced the earlier talk about the idea of limitations in the adversarial force and man trying to overcome the material world, and Saturn represents man's struggle to do that. So add that into his obsession with the letter X. He's got a kid named it. That was his PayPal before it became PayPal. It was called X. He changed Twitter to X. He's obsessed with this letter X, and X in some realms of the occult represents the antichrist. Then and it also represents in Tex Mars's Codex Magica book, he talks about how it represents the religion of Osiris, the dead and resurrected god, because Osiris was, he would cross the arms in the tomb, and this is what you see the skull and crossbones from the Yale Skull and Bones represents, and all this stuff.
It's very interesting, dude. Go on.
Oh, and then one more thing. Then he was recently on Joe Rogan's show, and he said that empathy is a weakness, which is literally the opposite of the message of Christ, Yeah. So my thought is, and then what put it all together for me was there was a photo released of Elon Musk with this weird haircut, and you could see this massive scar on the side of his head, and people said, hey, I think he put a Neuralink chip in his brain, and that's what that scar is. Now, to play devil's advocate, I had a hairstylist reach out to me and said, hey, what I think that could be is like they put, I don't know how it works, but like a hair, like a toupee, clips for a toupee.
Oh, interesting.
Oh, we've seen pictures of him with going bald, and now he's got full head hair.
Yeah, he's even joked about it. He's joked about how being rich miraculously makes your hair come back, is what he said.
Okay, yeah, so it could be that, but what if it's not? What if that's a Neuralink chip? Because he seems to me like the kind of guy who thinks he's really Tony Stark, and he would believe in his own Neuralink chip or brain cap or whatever you want to call it. I believe he would maybe experiment to allow him to put the chip in his head so that he could, and you see images of him or videos of him, and he's doing weird gestures with his eyeballs, like he's accessing the internet through his eyeballs or something weird.
Oh, that's so interesting. Oh, at that picture where he's kind of, at the inauguration where he's kind of like going like that. That's interesting.
Yeah. So, and then he was at the Met Gala wearing the Novus Ordo Seclorum, the New World Order jacket, and so on. And my point is that if that theory is true and this really happened, he is definitely, because he's already talked about embracing these ideas of the Dark Enlightenment and Rocco's Basilisk and allowing this AI god to come through, that maybe that's what this is all about. Maybe that's why he spent hundreds of $millions to get close to the White House so that he could sort of push the acceleration agenda of the Dark Enlightenment.
And he is the #1 Pentagon defense contractor. I mean, there's no too, right? Darker force in the Pentagon.
And he's been hand in hand. with Starlink now. Starlink is it's in every conversation. It was just in the Saudi thing about them turning on the lights over in, what was it, Qatar or one of these damn countries where they're rolling out Starlink, and he was doing Ukraine. He said like a month ago, right, that Ukraine would have lost already if it wasn't for Starlink. I think that's injected him into every conversation. When you cover the world in satellites, if you believe that, it kind of puts you in every conversation about global politics because you cover the globe with your
and that's a lot of power to turn on, turn off the internet.
That's why everybody wants to do it. That's why Bezos is rushing to get some satellites up there now, I think.
Yeah, I mean, like if you're part of the Pentagon, you could easily be into dark arts and dark enlightenment and be controlled by an AI, a demonic AI.
And we know the Pentagon believes in that shit because remember that story about UAP last year about how they
killed the program?
Well, there was a significant percentage of the people there that were afraid of investigating it because they think it's spiritual in nature. And then they
the Collins elite, that's the Collins elite that goes back to the 50s. In fact, I just interviewed Dr. Jacques Vallée on my podcast, and it was a fascinating interview because we talked a little bit about the Collins elite because he references his research into that group in his new book, and I was trying to really drill down on some of these ideas, and I ended up, when I was talking to him, he would give his answers, and the guy's super intelligent, right? So he talks super intelligent. And I would ask him these questions, and I was a little confused by the answer. And I was like, man, what is he saying here? So I went back and I re-listened to it, and then I did another episode sort of unpacking what he said and my take on it. And what I'm getting from it, in my viewpoint, was that he was saying that if we want to understand UFOs and the UAP phenomenon, we're going to have to sort of wrap our heads around some of these methods of the occult and making contact with entities and, arguably ritual magic or alchemy, because that is part of the phenomenon. That's basically what I think he's saying to me.
And I agree with that. I think that you can't understand any of these high impact events unless you study occultism.
Right.
And,
right.
and just the problem is this, brother, is that 90% of the population either is too busy or not capable of really looking in the nuance of everything. And they're just all, that's why dumb reigns right now. People are spread so thin that they just want to turn their brain off. And they don't understand that the walls are coming in. And it's like, and dude, humans are prey and lives. Like, I hate saying this, but there's a group that are just talking livestock. I'm sorry. And they will conform to any pen that is shaped around them. In the 50s, the pen was really big. And over time, the pen keeps getting smaller and smaller and smaller. And then they're just going to be in this small pen. You'll own nothing and you'll enjoy it, right? And bang, it's just a small pen of prey that's about to be slaughtered. And it's just, that does not matter, no matter how much you yell that the elites, the lizard people are coming. People just don't care. They want to watch girls twerk and fist fights on the internet. And it's just crazy to me, dude. It's just really freaking crazy to me.
I mean, those things sound fun, to be fair.
It's just interesting. I mean, like, I get it. I like to turn my brain off too and watch stupid. But I also want to go, what is going on? And like, you try to wake people up, and it's just like they fight you on it. They're so arrogant about their ignorance, and they just, and it's just like, we're in a time in our life where facts don't matter, feelings matter. And if your facts don't fit into my feelings, I reject your facts. I tell people all the time, you just don't like that fact. That fact does not fit into your narrative, and you are rejecting it because it makes you go, hey, man, do I have this wrong? And most people don't want to or don't need to in their lives. They just like, this is what my beliefs are. And, you know what's
funny? Oh, sorry. Like, we had a really good run as conspiracy theorists. I thought around 2020, 2021, I was like, wow, like the tide is changing. Like, people are starting to sort of like entertain some of these ideas. And we all faced a barrage of censorship and things like this because the system was fighting back. And then, not to make this a political thing, but the whole QAnon Pepe the Frog mixture thing happened. And all these people that were sort of opening their minds up to these ideas that we speak about, they, for right or wrong, they started going down that path of politics, and now they're rooting for the state again.
They're
and
completely captured.
I don't know, dude.
And that is how the system works. The extreme left and extreme right are used to capture people.
Yeah, totally. Yeah,
and we run
absolutely.
back and forth, back and forth. There will be a time where the Democrats will reign again, and people will be like, the Republicans are done. And that's done on purpose. Run back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. When people get tired of the Republicans, they'll run to the Democrats again. And we'll just go through this insane cycle, going back to your cycles of where it just keeps going around and around and around and around. And where are you in this cycle? And and it kind of goes what I say about Republicans create Democrats, Democrats create Republicans, and everyone zigs and zags. It goes back and forth. Whatever the generation before believed, the next generation revolts against that and goes the other way.
Right. And that's what the Curtis Yarvin, one of the architects of the Dark Enlightenment, his father was one of the members of the deep state. He was I don't remember his title, and then his brother was a major, I think he worked for DARPA or something like that. So just in that same idea that you've got sort of like these Republicans creating Democrats, Democrats creating Republicans, you've got a pro-government family creating an anarchist that wants to burn it all to the ground.
Yeah, it's very crazy, dude. And it's just like, people need to understand it is a spiritual war. And that's when, Trump starts doing all of his like Palestinian state. There's a group of people that are very hesitant to buy into any of that because history tells us that's not what's really happening. And it's these elites. Now, I do believe that the elites live in complete fear of us, that we would all come together and basically overthrow them, whether it's spiritually or literally. And they live in that fear. And that's a big part of social media, is to play to our beliefs, enforce them, nonlinear warfare, and to get us all to fight with each other. I 100% believe all that. You know? And it's crazy. Man, this has been a great episode, dude. Great episode. Anything else?
Absolutely.
No, that's the
Fire episode, buddy. Fire episode.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, and there's a couple more. So, like, if people want to hear more, I've got the 5-part series that I'm adding on occult symbolism and pop culture, wherever you get your podcasts. I covered a good amount of content, but there's part 3 and 5 we didn't touch on at all. Part 3 was talking about the satanic occult Nazi weirdos that are part of this, and then part 5 I went deeper into how Manly P. Hall's Secret Destiny of America, Francis Bacon's New Atlantis, and the Great Reset are all part of this agenda of creating these 15-minute cities, these network states, freedom cities, the technate of Elon Musk's bloodline. It's all connected. It's the same thing. So if you want to hear in detail all of those, they're all out on my podcast right now, as well as I'm writing up some articles that summarize and yet expand on a lot of these ideas on my Substack, illuminatiwatcher.substack.com. I've got a ton of articles on there of like Prince sacrifice symbolism and Lady Gaga and Ariana Grande and all kinds of crazy stuff. So there's a couple places you can catch me, and that's the podcast and my Substack.
Hey man, come back on soon and talk about the 9 angle stuff.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, for sure. No doubt. That'd
love
be a great
all this
show.
stuff. Great episode, man. I hope we can see each other in person soon. I always enjoy our conversations when we're face to face. I enjoy our conversations over Zoom. Hey, Johnny, did you see all the weird glitches happen while he was?
Yeah,
like,
I think it's something with your camera, maybe.
No, but it was just
I
weird.
chatted with you guys and asked if you saw that too. I'm gonna get a new camera or something. I don't know. It's a newish camera. It's only a year old, but
I would just check the cable connections.
It's just weird. There was just weird glitches, and I thought I saw stuff in the glitches sometimes,
really?
like weird
Is that what
images.
you were pointing at? Because I didn't see anything.
But anyways, great show. Isaac, always a pleasure to talk to you. You are truly a member of the Mount Crushmore. And we will talk to you soon, brother. Real quick, guys, if you got a moment, go to samtripoli.com. You get all of my dates are there. Costa Mesa, Cleveland, Ohio, Pittsburgh, PA, San Diego, Broadbrook, and we're trying to get Boston. I'm hoping that's still going to happen. Tulsa, Oklahoma, and then we also have New Orleans. Bang, bang, pow. Everything's on samtripoli.com. I'm telling you, the premium content is on fire. Whatever this is, exclusive to the guys on the show, you'll only find it in our premium content, both Austin Picard and Brad Binkley. It's a great conversation. Deep Conspiracy Rewinds. I would love to do more only conspiracies interviews. I get hit up all the time. I go, will you do my premium content? They say yes, and then they just ghost me. So if you have something interesting and you talk about it for a half an hour, come on the show. Cash Daddies, Johnny, talk to me about the power of the Cash Daddies Patreon.
Yeah, how he's been doing as well as anybody possibly could, and because the market has taken it's been up and down. It's been volatile, and how he's very good.
I'm up in mine,
finding the windows to profit
in the windows.
And we talked about in the last episode. He has been. If you've been there a while, you knew that he was on Uber like nothing else. Whenever people asked him like, "Hey, what's going to be the next Amazon?" Where can I really make life-changing money? Uber is what he always said, and it is
still low for what he thinks it's going to be.
Yeah, there's still opportunity there, but it has gone up substantially since he first started talking about it, and it's still on a rocket.
Patreon.com/Cash Daddies.
Yeah, check that out. It's also
dates.
a podcast. We do it on.
So I'm getting the drawings from Chaos Twins number 2. I'm very excited about it.
How do
they look great. I just want to tweak one more thing. And this one character named Danny which is what Alice calls Dana. So Danny is
What is her? Is she a human or
she's
something
a
else?
she's like a genie.
A genie? Okay.
Yeah,
I like
she's
that.
a genie in it. So grab your issue now. Go to Tinfoil Hat T-shirts, please, Johnny. Now, please, Johnny. Go to Tinfoil Hat T-shirts.
It's loading. There.
Okay, go down to the new T-shirt that's there. Bang! Look at that one with right there.
Oh, I appreciate my my non-inclusion. You could at least put me on the ball.
You're not in the show.
What is it? It just says tinfoil hat on
Yeah,
it.
because I took a flyer and turned it into a T-shirt.
Oh.
If you did comedy, not 5 minutes on kicking my dick in.
That's really what it is. Sam doesn't believe that you can talk about him and it be counted as
Not
comedy.
for the whole 5 minutes, but here you go. Great shirt. I mean, this guy Ruben who does my flyers is one of the best in the business, and he crushed it. So if you go to samtripoli.com, tinfoil hat, T-shirts available for a limited time.
That a practice shirt is so funny.
Yeah, Johnny, that does look like you. I'm going to be honest with
I don't know what Sam has said he made this limited because we told him we hated it or something. But I think it's funny. I don't care if you unlimited it or whatever. I mean,
I forget who drew that back in the day.
The part that's
Brock did that back in the day.
potentially annoying is that we look like we're on the tips of your twin dicks. There is really
No, those are my shoes.
I
I'm
know.
the Iron Sheik.
I know that, but it
That was
looks
back
like
when I didn't
foot
realize
dicks.
Abraxas could be dark energy.
Yeah, it's
Go
dark
back.
energy.
Go back to the main page, Johnny.
Okay.
So great way. And then all of our affiliates, and we're adding in more as we go. The Wise Wolf Gold and Silver. I mean, we love them. Precious metals is a great way to invest in something that's going to be stable. Okay. Rife Technology. Get your oral right. He's the best at that.
Is he doing all right?
Yeah, he's doing fine.
Good, good.
Both him and the comic. Aquacure Hydrogen Brown Gas.
Comic's doing great.
You need hydrogen. It slows down the aging process, according to them. Their words, not mine. Mineral King, Pat Meltich is the man. Honored to work with him. Go check it out. They got so many great things that can get rid of bacteria and anything inside you that could be hurting you.
I love this picture of you.
I absolutely love
Such an innocent boy.
chemical-free body. I take it every day.
Energize your health like Sam.
Yeah, look at me. I am healthy. Harley Ray, big fans of the show, big friends of the show. One of the best websites you ever
Yeah,
seen.
they drop into the comments all the time. I see them all the
EMF rocks. We love them. Fight that dirty electricity. You got to do it. Joel Staley just had a book come out. Check
Is that
him
him
out.
right there?
Yeah, he's shredded.
Damn, he is shredded, huh?
He is fucking shredded. Look at that
Badass.
six-pack. I'm gay for that six-pack.
like that 8-pack.
And then if XG was here, you'd realize how smart he is based on the shrooms, the microdosing.
Maybe
he's
leaving
doing.
was smart. Maybe that was the smart thing.
Maybe
he
get
did.
out.
He got out of the work.
And then, just like I tell anybody who will listen to me, if you're in the conspiracy world, you need to get a decentralized website, and there's no better place to do it than our good friends at Prometheus. Nuke Social, Telegrams, everything on Sam Tripoli. Click it, bring you right to it, and then go down. All my audio, all my videos, all right there. Go down, clips, videos, everything on radios on samtripoli.com. All you need is there, my friends. All my videos, all my specials, everything on samtripoli.com. And finally, that's it, basically. Oh, yeah. Please check out Doom Scrolling. It is the most educational hour and a half on the internet. You get a lot of topics. You get a good amount of information on a lot of topics, both conspiratorial, spiritually, and comedically. Some of the funniest things we've ever done, all on samtripoli.com. Check out Doom Scrolling. I'm telling you, you're going to love it. Me, Midnight Mike, and myself. It couldn't be a better show. The Wheel of Doom is one of the greatest technological advancements we've ever made. Johnny, what would you like to talk about?
Yeah, Broken Sim. The last one just came out. We had XG on because we recorded after Tinfoil last week, and we had a good time. It's all over. It's wide ranging, I would say, but we had a lot of fun. Check that out. It will be on YouTube by the time you hear this, and it's out on audio everywhere.
All right, guys, enjoy these highlights.
Here's a clip from the latest Broken Sim. Yeah. George Santos, we mourned his departure to jail.
I'm so sad.
Well, now he's going
He's
off,
going to be
baby.
so happy.
He's going
He's
on
like,
his-
I'm angry. I'm going to go to a whole hotel of dicks. I'm so upset.
He's going on his revenge tour.
Great job with the lighting, Greg.
Members of Congress that should be indicted but never probably
George.
will be. Ilhan Omar, immigration fraud. She married her brother to become a resident. Yeah, true. Nobody's talking about that. Rep. Thanader from Michigan. Well, animal cruelty, identity theft, all sorts of different freaking issues that he's done with his shady past. Nothing's going to happen about that
Is that
either,
that
I
Indian
believe.
he's talking about? That
Has anyone
shady-ass-
found AOC's missing $1 million from her campaign? I'm waiting, asking for a few friends. Oh, and let's not forget, there's a good old Adam Schiff. He's never going to see justice. Indictment for him? Never. Oh, what about the inside traders? Like all the allegations around Pelosi, Dan Crenshaw, Nicole Malliotakis. What about them? Are they ever going to be indicted and investigated? Just curious. Oh, and then there's all the sex scandals, right? I mean, I can name them, but those are so long. But pretty much about half of Congress. Anything about that? Oh, and then there's Jasmine Crockett's grandma receiving Social Security payments for 11 years after she passed.
Ooh.
That's how they own you, dude. It's like, dude, we got you on this super fraud.
Well, anyway,
So what do
I
you
just
wanna
figured
do?
I'd share.
Do you want to run for Congress and be the most hood rat you could possibly be, even though you're college educated?
This guy. Oh, dude, she's so funny. She's so funny.
Did you hear? Dude, we played a clip on Doom Scrolling where she's like, being illegally in the country is not a crime. You're like, okay, thank you.
Words mean things.
Yeah, and that's why
Sugar tits.
that's your job, is to be a retard.
By the way, this guy, look at all the filler in his face. He's going to look completely different after a few months in jail because all this shit right here is filler. His lips clearly have filler. He's got Botox on his forehead. He's going to look like a leather
If I was
handbag
Trump,
when
I
he's-
would pardon him and go, listen, you got indicted on you got found guilty on all this shit. I have a whole folder here of more shit you did. Okay, so we could talk. I can do a presidential pardon, and you just go murk everybody.
Attack dog?
Attack dog, the gayest attack dog ever.
The gay Roger Stone or
Yeah.
the gayer Roger Stone? Right?
The more gay Roger Stone.
President Trump has finally addressed in a negative way his decision to run in 2028. He says it is not something he's looking to do. I'm looking to have a great 4 years and turn it over to somebody. Thought that was good news to hear him finally.
Yeah,
say-
you don't want that. You don't want dictators.
You just don't want it lingering out there either.
I mean, it's JD Vance or who else,
It's got to be Vance for the Republicans.
and it sucks because he's just owned
He's
by
just-
those
it's back to-
sweaty people.
It's back to status
The
quo.
sweaty people.
Yeah. Trump is going to raise millions. He's doing these crypto dinners. Have you heard about this? He is okay. President Trump has 2 crypto-focused dinners on the calendar this month. One aimed at deep-pocketed political donors, and the other one at his meme coin millionaires. One of them is only for people who hold that Trump coin.
I want to be a meme coin millionaire so bad.
$1.5 million per plate for the Monday fundraiser. It's among the priciest political fundraisers in history. The second, on May 22nd, offers access to Trump's inner circle, not for cash, but for holders of the Trump token, hosted by MAGA Inc. The Crypto and AI Innovators Dinner on May 5th features special guest David Sachs. What is it?
Holy shit, Johnny. New York Knicks are up 2-0.
I told you that like 30 minutes ago. You didn't listen to me. You heard
well,
it too.
I like to ignore
filter.
you.
Yeah, filter. Okay. Yeah. Anyway, Trump's making millions and millions and millions off of this crypto thing. This is about the worst way to get busted for possession.
Bro, this is my favorite story. This is my favorite story.
So this Akron woman gets arrested on drug charges after they pull her over, and her pet raccoon has her meth pipe.
And he's trying to hit it.
Yeah, he's trying to hit it, dude.
Dude, have you seen the video?
No.
Oh, you have to watch it. It's the funniest thing you've ever seen in your life.
If you'd like to hear the rest of this episode, subscribe to Broken Simulation in your podcasting app or check us out at youtube.com/Sam Tripoli.
We go deep, homeboy. Aaron, open your mind. Drink from the fountain of knowledge. There's lizard people everywhere. That's some interdimensional shit. Wake up, Aaron.
This is only the beginning.
Dude, you just blew my mind.
Tinfoil hat.